In Brazil, an investigative Senate committee has endorsed a damning report that recommends President Jair Bolsonaro face criminal charges for his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. This comes after a months-long probe into the country's COVID response. Brazil has recorded more than 600,000 coronavirus deaths, the second highest toll in the world after the U.S. For more on the recommendations in this scathing report, we cross live to our correspondent in Rio de Janeiro, Tim Vickery. Tim, tell us what's in this report.
Well, it recommends criminal prosecutions of 78 people in two companies. Obviously, the standout is Bolsonaro, 9 separate charges against him, headed by crimes against humanity. What it boils down to is the accusation that he deliberately exposed the Brazilian population to the virus in a vain pursuit of herd immunity, that he advocated ineffective medicine, that he acted against the use of masks and social distancing, that he was responsible for institutional disinformation, a campaign of fake news, and that there was a deliberate delay in the acquisition of vaccines, added to which suspicions of corruption or at least obstruction of justice in the acquisition of those vaccines.
And there was also a mention of Jair Bolsonaro's social media accounts in this report, wasn't there?
Well, he recently made a link between vaccines and AIDS, and as a result, his YouTube channel has been taken down. But this is out of the reach. This belongs to techno giants. This is out of the reach of what the Brazilian authorities can do.
All right. Well, tell us then, what are the next steps here? Will these charges actually be brought against Jair Bolsonaro? What's the likelihood of that?
I think that the important point to make is that it's been 6 months during which these issues have been debated. And that in itself, as well as putting things on historical record, has had an enormously positive influence in the reduction of vaccine resistance. There is very little vaccine resistance in Brazil. Now more than half of the population are fully vaccinated. And that, I think, is in part a consequence of this commission of inquiry. It's a salient point what happens now. The report now moves on to various authorities. In Congress, it would seem that Bolsonaro has sufficient support to bat off the possibility of impeachment, and that the Attorney General and the federal police have certainly been reluctant to move against him. The senators behind the report are clearly trying to shame the Attorney General into a different course of action this time. The report will also go to the International Criminal Court, although that's a slow and cumbersome process, and it could also prove the basis of a private prosecution by any individual or association who feel themselves victims of the government's handling of the coronavirus pandemic. But surely the most important thing here is the effect on the court of public opinion with presidential elections a year away.
Yeah, so has this probe damaged Bolsonaro's reputation at all heading into the re-election next year?
It certainly has, but it would be very unwise to underestimate the strength of Bolsonaro's core support. Now, the reaction of his government will be to hope to ignore this report and hope it goes away. And the government have already responded. Their response increased welfare payments. When Bolsonaro was in opposition, he railed against welfare payments. He called them the dictatorship of the proletariat. He discovered them during the pandemic. His government was very reluctant to have emergency welfare payments. Congress voted them through, but Bolsonaro saw that politically he gained some credit from that. So there will now be increased welfare payments. It's proving controversial inside Brazil's government. It means that they're likely to exceed spending limits, and it's caused the resignation of some of the economic team. But the Bolsonaro government clearly believes that this time next year in the presidential elections, welfare payments could play much bigger than the report on the handling of the coronavirus.